All right, so we're going to get started with the build. We're going to do the motherboard first. We're going to get the CPU, the RAM, the cooler, NVMe drive, all the bits that we can put onto the motherboard before we put it in the case, ideally. The instructions are actually pretty crucial. They're going to have, there's a nice diagram on there. Tells you what all of your outputs are. Let's just double check the box. We need the AI I/O shield and an M.2 screw. So the first thing we're going to do is put the CPU in. Got to undo this little gizmo here. And this flips up. And I can see, if you come over the top with the camera, there's a triangle right here. And that's going to match up to a triangle on the CPU itself. I don't know. I probably have to get out of this clear. Yeah. Can you see down here? That's going to tell you how the CPU goes in the socket. So that lower left-hand corner is where we want to put this triangle. So you don't want to touch the pins in the motherboard, and you don't want to touch the pins on the back of the CPU. So you want to pick this out of here real careful. There's a lot of little tiny things that you could booger up on there. And I'm not Jay, so I can't fix it. So this just gets dropped in like so. I've seen some videos where this very satisfactorily like snaps off and flies in the air, but it's never happened for me in real life. Okay, so we got that in there. We go ahead and put the cooler on. The cooler already has thermal paste applied, so I'm gonna just go ahead and use the factory stuff that came on here. So there's 4 holes on the motherboard that this is gonna slot into, and these are like a push style. Okay, so we're in the holes. I'm gonna push. You hear them clicking into place. Might as well hook this up while we're at it.
So the RAM has this little notch in here, and it is only going to go in one way unless you force it. And you can see there's the little slots right there. That's what it's got to line up with. If you force this, you're going to break something. Now you want to check your motherboard instructions, but generally speaking, I haven't seen one that's different yet. When you're doing dual channel, you want to do A2 and B2. 2 clicks. My Asus ones only have one on this side. Okay, so they're both clicked into place.
What I'm unscrewing right now is the cover for the heatsink for the M.2. And actually, I probably want to use my iFixit because it's got a magnetic bit. So the heatsink comes off. There's a little peel right here. There's adhesive on this side, so it actually sticks to your drive. And then we need this little screw that's in here. Oh, this one has. So this M.2 has a screw in the package. So you can see there's a little cutout hole here. This side is going to go in the slot here, and it kind of goes in at an angle. It kind of just has its own feel. Like you can kind of feel when it starts to be in the right spot, and then you've got to push it in. So it's in there now, and then this goes down like that. And this retention screw, I wonder if I want to use this one or the one that came with the motherboard. So the one that came with the motherboard is actually a little wider. I think I'm going to try that one. So you push that down into the hole.
We got the RAM installed. We got the M.2 installed. I'm just trying to think if there's anything else. I don't think there's anything else I want to put in here. We're going to put the graphics card in last, like the very last part of the build. Like everything's all assembled.
Okay, so we got the CPU in, we got the cooler on, we got the RAM installed, we got the M.2 installed. I'm just trying to think if there's anything else. I don't think there's anything else I want to put in here. We're going to put the graphics card in last, like the very last part of the build, like everything's all assembled. Will be the last hurrah. We'll set the I/O shield to the side. Oh, duh. Let me put the heatsink back on. So I'm going to peel the glue there. Oh, that's right. This has its own captive screw, so I don't think I need this one. So we're just slotting the heatsink back into the spot that it came out of. I keep grabbing this red screwdriver, but I guess it doesn't matter for this. And these do not have to be tight. You're just snugging it. This is not, you know, in an automobile or something. So now the stickum on the other side is stuck to the drive. So the heat's going to transfer to the heatsink. I think we'll set this to the side. I think I'm going to put, I've got to put 2 motherboard standoffs in here. And I think I'm going to put the PSU in and then the motherboard. So zip ties. Oh, that's right. These Gigabyte motherboards have this speaker. It's like a diagnosis speaker. It'll give you beeps to let you know if something's wrong. Like if it won't post, it'll give you like a code to look up. I'm going to have to look at where this goes on the motherboard. Yeah, I don't really want to dump all of this stuff out, but I might have to sort through it. These are the inside cables. Let's just go ahead and take the back panel off. I keep forgetting that those screws are not captive on this case, and cat. Oh yeah. The other thing I wanted to do, I'm going to pull this drive cage out because I'm not going to use any traditional Spinny Boy hard drives. So I'm just going to take this out in order to free up some space down here for cable management with all the wires coming out of the PSU. There's 2 screws on the bottom of the case I have to take out to do that. And really, they're the only 2 screws. There's nothing else on here. So if you also want to remove them, there are 1, 2. Everything else, there's a couple, there's like a rivet there. Rivet here. Yeah, there's rivets to hold things together. You're obviously not going to unscrew those. Now, you can also, on this case, you can use the cage for SSDs. You can put one on the inside, one on the top, I want to say. All right, let's see. Now I got those screws out. I don't think there's anything else holding it in here. Just had to wiggle it a little bit. There's some tabs in here, some little metal tabs that were slotted into these rails right here. So I'm not going to throw this away. I'm going to keep it in case if I sell this thing or whatever, somebody wants that cage, they'll need the screws. But now you can see how much more open it is under here. It'll make more sense once we get the power supply in. Let's go ahead and remove the glass panel. So this just has a magnetic latch on it. So you open it up and then you're going to lift up, just straight up. Be careful with tempered glass. It breaks very, very easily. You don't have to smack it very hard or drop it uh, from very far, and it will completely shatter. Let's see here. There's 1, 2, 3, 4 standoffs in here already. I've got to add 2 right here. 1, 2 to fit this board. What is that? Okay, there's 1. There's 2. There's actually, looks like there's 3 standoffs in here, but we only need 2. So what the standoffs do is they keep the motherboard up off the bottom, like so it's not just pressed against the metal inside the case. So these get screwed into the case, and then it's got screw holes in it, so the screws for the hold the motherboard in screw into those. Okay. Oh, I almost forgot. We gotta put the I/O shield in before we put the motherboard in. So this guy will have a clear outside, inside. Which side goes on top though? Okay. So I was just holding it up to match the shapes to what's on the motherboard. So I put it in right side up. Fan wires were a little bit in the way, just had to push them out. And this should just kind of click in there. There are some little metal protrusions, some little tabs on here where the DVI connection is. Let's take this out and just snap these out of here. Otherwise, when we go to put the motherboard in, they're going to be in the way. Just wiggle them a couple of times and they'll snap off. Let's do a little test fit here. Okay. That looks good. The little bits that had to come out came out, and everything else lines up. These fan wires are kind of a pain in the tuchus. There are these little teeth here that feel like they should hold it. I'm just trying to be gentle and take my time. I don't want to break anything. if I booger this IO shield up, it's the only one I got, so stupid fan wire. Okay. So we got it in there now. I did have to, I pressed a little harder than I initially felt comfortable with, but it was not really sitting in there at all like it was going to fall out. So there are like some metal tabs, if you will, that this will kind of click past and then they'll hold it in. So I wouldn't push in the middle where it's real squishy, but if you push on the ends where the thickest metal is, just give her a good shove until you hear it click. And then she'll be in there good. All right, let's go back to the motherboard. So, we got 1, 2, 3. Just got to line up the holes that are, these are your screw holes in the motherboard. These metal reinforced guys. Just got to line them up with your standoffs. I need to, these fan wires, man, really being kind of a drag. There we go. So it helps, shoot this over here. I got everything kind of lined up through the IO shield to kind of get me in the right-ish direction. So now, so the motherboard screws are the ones with the fine thread. There's some ones in here that have some real coarse thread. I'm not actually 100% sure what those are for. Some of them, the power supply screws are a little bit coarser thread, but I don't think that's what these are. Yeah, that's a power supply screw right there. They've got a kind of a hex. That's a power supply screw. It's got kind of a wider hex-shaped head on it. These little guys with the fine thread are what you want. All right, we should need like 9 of them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Did I count the middle one? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Maybe there's only 8. I guess this is a micro ATX. So I'm going to start with probably what I feel like is the hardest one to get, which is up here by this corner where the fan is. And you want to do one corner at a time, and I'm going to do opposite corners. Again, these don't have to be real tight. This isn't a space shuttle going to outer space. that needs maximum torque specs. You just kind of want to alternate around the board once you get the first two in. So I did those first two in opposite corners to make sure that the board was seated properly, like in the right location. Now all of the other holes should be hopefully lined up. He says as he struggles with this next one. I feel like I see the hole there. Let me see if this one will start. Okay, I can't seem to get him started, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to loosen this guy a little bit so that there's some more play in the board. Okay, oh, I thought I had it start. So I'm just kind of sliding the board around a little bit to try and get the holes to line up now. Can you see from your angle, because you're kind of straight over the top, if that hole's lined up or not? It is. Let me try a different screw. I think these are all the same, but okay. I don't know what was wrong with that other one, but the next one went in fine. Is this other hole lined up still? Oh yeah. Let's do this corner guy up here. And this one in the middle. And I've got one more on the top. I think I'm going to look around and double check, but I think that should be the last one. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There is one more. And then get this one on the bottom. You know what? I think that screw is just foobar. Luckily, these things come with a lot of screws. Yeah, different screw goes right in there. You know, I'm not sure what the like manufacturing tolerances are or the quality assurance on something like motherboard screws. I feel like on my other one I had a couple times too where I had to like, you know what, this one just isn't going in this particular hole right, and I just swapped out for a different screw and it went in. Again, you really just don't want to force it. If it doesn't go in easy, something is probably wrong and not lined up correctly. So just take your time, go slow, stop, take a breath. I've had to do that a lot. And if you have someone that can assist you that has smaller hands, sometimes that's helpful too. The good news is on this B660, you look along the top here, there's a lot of room, and since we don't have a radiator, we don't have an AIO that we're mounting up here, there's a lot of room to get the power cables through. See? Okay. So we're actually like half-ish done, maybe? Maybe more like a third. We got to put the power supply in. Um, we've got to hook the power supply up to the board. We've got to hook up the fans and the top I/O panel. So that's what all this stuff is here. I guess we can unzip tie and undeusticate this stuff. So this little conglomeration here, this is going to get, this is the fans. And one of the things, if you watch my case review, that's real nice is this thing came with this wiring harness already hooked up. So all we have to do is hook this fan connector up to the motherboard. And the 4 case fans that came with it will be hooked up. And then this is to the controller. So we've got one SATA power that we're going to have to connect, and then this is the ARGB connector. So we've got for all 4 fans that came on this case, we've only got to use 1, 2 connections to the motherboard, and then 1, and then this is for power. These little mini guys are for the front panel, so your power button works and your reset button works and stuff like that. And then we've got one of them's HD audio. This is your USB 2.0. And then this should be HD audio. Yep, HD audio. So USB, HD audio, they're labeled right on them. And then the motherboard is labeled as well. And then these big fat blue connectors, this is for your USB 3.2 for your front panel. We'll come back to this though. Let's go ahead and get the power supply in. How do I want to do this? Probably, let's lay it down so that you can see more better. Where did I, oh, power supply's right here. So you're just going to look at the orientation, how this is going to go. Obviously the power is going to go out the back. The fan is going to face down because that's where the intake is. And that guy will go in there like that. But actually, now that I'm thinking about it, let's go ahead and hook up our modular power cables and then slide it in there. It's going to be pretty difficult, at least for me, to hook those things up. So we've got, no, we don't need that guy just yet. So these are the two that I had used before to flash the BIOS on the motherboard. So your 24 pin, your CPU power, your 8-pin connector. I am going to hook up, so the 1660 Super only has one 8-pin PCIe connector that needs power, but I am going to go ahead and hook up the two that come with this power supply, just so I don't have to pull it out later when we're swapping out GPUs. So I have these two, so I'm looking for that one SATA power that I need. Which here's one right here. That's an extra CPU. This is not an overclocking board nor an overclocking CPU, so we don't need that extra one. If you have a different case, like if you went with the, I'm going to have to look this up to make sure I'm right after the fact, but I think the Montech X1 is another one that we looked at. But a lot of the cheaper cases that are $50 and under actually run off of Molex power. This is a Molex connector. So this one would go into the CPU, into the PSU, into your power supply, and then this would hook up to your fans. When they're Molex like this, they just run at a constant speed all the time. There's no hooking up to the motherboard and controlling anything. They just run. But we don't need this for this build. Other SATA. I think all these SATAs are set up the same, so. All right, these are our two 8-pin PCIe for the graphics cards. Yeah, and these are both the same. So you can tell a SATA power supply or power connector because there are these flat, kind of ribbony looking cables, and then the SATA connection is this flat ribbony looking thing like that. So I'm just going to put it on the end here to try and kind of keep it out of the way. This is my CPU connector. If you can see here, there is a narrow and a fat like connection clip. The skinny one is what goes in the power supply. The fat one is what goes over the motherboard. So if you remember from the BIOS video, this rail right here, these first 4 connections are for these 8 pins for the CPU and for the graphics card. And it says, I'll flip this around so you can see, PCIe/CPU. So I've got the skinny clip end here. Again, I'm just going to kind of go on the end here. But so now you can see that there's 3 slots to hook up 8-pin PCIe for graphics cards. So if you had something like a, you're not going to fit a 4080 in here. This system isn't set up for 4080, 4090, but if you have a card that needs 3 connections, you'll have it. So I'm just going to use these 2 on the end here. Let's go here. Maybe not. Why can't I fit it? The other way you can tell on these, you got these 2 daisy chained. So these are the ones that are going to go into the GPU itself. And I wrote Corsair and I haven't heard back yet. I'm I'm pretty disappointed that this is how they come. And maybe there's some technical aspect of this that this is fine and doesn't matter. But it seems to me that you would want one solid set of wires with its own connector for each spot on the graphics card, that you wouldn't want to daisy chain them. Like I said, I haven't heard back yet. Maybe I'll get official word from Corsair. If they sell it like this, I guess it must be okay, right? I hope. But the other aspect is aesthetics. So for our 1660 Super, only one of these ends is going to be hooked up because it only has one connector. So this one is just going to be dangling in the breeze. And I'm going to have to, maybe I'll zip tie it to this guy right here so it doesn't look as ugly. But these are what we call a 6+2. You got 6 plus 2, obviously. Some of the older, less power hungry GPUs only use a 6-pin, and so then this just you leave dangling. Some of them that have 2 connections will have an 8 plus a 6 on the graphics card, I mean. So that's why those exist like that. So if you remember again from the other video, the 24-pin connection, one side of it is split and the other is solid. The solid side goes into your motherboard and the split side goes onto your PSU. I'm just going to put this fat end in first. I'm going to push it in until it clicks. On that side. Okay, so we got our power cables all hooked up to the power supply, so now we're going to put it in the case. Remember, we're going to put the fan facing down. We've got our coarse thread PSU screws. These came in with the case. Now, where are the holes? Okay. I'm gonna put this bottom one in first to kind of hold it on the bottom. And I'm leaving it a little loose so it's got some wiggle room. I throw everything around. And then, kind of like we did on the motherboard, I'm going to come up here and do the opposite corner. I see what my problem was. I was looking in the wrong spot. I was looking for a hole over here, and it's right here. These are probably the tightest screws that I use because it kind of has to support, like the power supply is lifted off the case like a millimeter, like it gets suspended in air. Okay. But I'm not really cranking on it, just hand tight. Okay. So the next thing we want to do is we're going to start to cable manage and get things through and connected to the motherboard. What I want to do is kind of separate those motherboard connections, like the fans and whatnot, away from the power cables. So I'm just gonna shove these guys. Actually, no. I'm gonna leave these out until the bitter end. That's what I'm gonna do. Whoa. It's like some kind of animal, some kind of octopus trying to frickin' come get me. Alright, so what is the most intrusive and in my way right now? Let's go ahead and we'll get these, the biggest ones, hooked up. So I'm going to warn you, I'm probably the worst at cable management that you'll see on YouTube. So there's that. So if you have a different / better way for you to do your own build, you go for it, because I'm just doing the best I can. So I want to run, this is our USB 3.0. I'm going to run that through the grommet here. These two for the HD audio and the USB 2.0 are, those connections are on the bottom of the motherboard, so I'm going to run these. Let me flip this around so you can see better. If we do like this, then I think we can all see. So I want to run, so the HD audio is on this left side, and the fan connection is right here. And the USB 2, which one is USB? Okay, so USB is there. So I'm going to sneak these guys up. Did I guess right? Hey, I guessed right. I wanted my USB and I got my USB. All right, I'm going to pull that guy through just so I've got room to work. And then the other one is my HD audio. I'm going to run the HD audio through this far left hole because the HD audio is literally the last, that white connector there. So I want to get this through there. I'm just making sure on the back side I'm just running it underneath all of the other ones to attempt some cable management. Okay. So USB. I don't know if you can see this, but do you see how there's one, there's a blank spot? Well, if you look at those pins, you can see that the upper left one is, in fact, there is no pin there. So that's how you know how to orient this. And then it goes on just like that. When we get going with cable management, when we've got everything hooked up, we can pull some of this back through onto the other side. HD audio is the same thing. See, it has a blank space there. Second one over from the left as you're looking at it right now. So we just need to see. Okay, so that is the bottom. So this goes just like this. Let me look at it, make sure that I am in fact putting it in there correctly. Yeah, that is the missing one. It's just such a tight fit. Oh, there we go. It's amazing that I could get it looking through these little holes on the back side, but we got her. Okay, so that's for your audio, and this is for your USB 2.0 for your front panel. Where did... Okay, now we're going to do the USB 3.0. And this one is actually labeled like inside. You can see that it says it real big in there. And you can only orient the connector one way. See, the connector has that little nubbin on it in the middle there. And you can see the cutout there where that nubbin goes. So we're going to flip this like this. And there. You bring that a little closer, and I want to use a light to see if... Okay. Good to go there. So we need to run the ARGB connection through now for the fans and the fan itself. So where are we? Okay, here's the ARGB. So these two are coming off of the back or the bottom side of the fan hub right here. So that's where these two are coming from. These, well, sorry, the SATA power is not going to go through the case, just the ARGB. So I'm going to run this one through probably in that middle bottom hole. Yeah. Just looking on the back to make sure that I'm not over or twisted up with other things. I'm going to run that through. And then bring the camera closer here. Do you see this guy here that's got 2 pins, a space, and then a third pin? That's your ARGB right there. On the motherboard, it says D LED. If you have a different motherboard, it may actually say RGB or ARGB on it. But if you're following along with the build and we have all the same parts, that's what yours will look like. And so you can see very clearly there, you've got two pins close to each other and one spaced out. So that's going to go right there. Now, for future reference, this, unless I'm missing it, is the only addressable RGB connection on this motherboard. Now, that's okay for our purposes right now because the only RGB we have in this build is the fans that are in the case, and those are all good. Those are all connected through that fan hub to this one connection, so we're okay. Now, should you add an AIO that has RGB, or you want to put an LED strip in here that's ARGB, you can order off of Amazon, Newegg, go to Micro Center, and just get an ARGB splitter. And what that'll be is one of these, it'll come off the motherboard, and then it'll have 2 or 3 ends on it to connect your ARGB things to. Now this one next to it is a non-addressable RGB. So the non-addressable RGBs have 4 pins. So that one right there is non-addressable RGB. So if you have something like that, you can hook up one there, and you can also hook a splitter up to that as well. The difference there with the addressable versus the non-addressable is that the addressables are the ones that you can change via software to give you all the different effects and whatnot. So those are good. Okay, so we're going to now hook up the front panel connections that go over here for the power on button, the reset button, etc. Those are those little guys. Oh, actually, let me run this fan. So I think it would actually be easiest. We've got a fan switch right there. Yeah. So I'm going to run this through. Sorry, I got sidetracked. I forgot we got to do the fan. Okay, so this is the. Let me flip this around again so you can see. I don't want to. So this is that adapter wiring harness coming from the fan hub. And this one connector is going to run all of our fans. So I'm going to sneak that up through here. Now, I don't know if you can see this. I think you can. This thing gets pretty close. So you see the notching in here? This is going to help you put this on because, as you can see, this is a 4-pin, and this only has 3 holes. That's okay. You're just going to leave the 1 hole unused. And the reason I showed you that notching is that if you can see on the bottom there, there's that plastic protrusion. Is that coming through on the camera at all? Yeah, right there. So that is gonna, this is gonna slide over that. So we know by looking at that then that this is gonna face down and it's gonna go to the left. It may not be super apparent on the camera, but you'll see it in person that this black clip is on the left side. So we're gonna flip this around so that that slot is on the bottom, and we're gonna slide it in right there. So this is to control the actual fans themselves, the fan speed. This is your USB 2.0, and then over here is your ARGB for the fans. So this is going to allow us to change the colors of the fans. So now the only thing we have left to hook up is the front panel connections down here for the power and whatnot. All right, so I'm running these little guys up through this hole here. Grab these up here. These ones right here. Do those show up? So again, I'm trying to stay on the back side away from any other wires, like making an entanglement. Run those through. I'm just going to pull them through all the way for right now. I think the best way to work on this is going to be to flip this on its back. Just be mindful, you've got all of your wires and stuff back here. So we've got power, HD, LED, power LED, power LED plus. Now the manual for the motherboard does not specify which ones go where, but it looks like it says right there. Can you read those?
Yeah.
Do you want to do this? All right, we're going to trade filming here because I can't read those pinouts. I guess if you're old like me and you can't see, probably a good idea to look at those ahead of time and just map them out so you already know where they're going. Yeah, so they're too close together, so we're just pulling them apart so we've got more room to work there, just separating the wire insulation. Okay, so I stopped the recording for a second just because it was just going to be a bunch of hands in there and you can't see anyway. So this is what it looks like when it's all hooked up. So this on the left side as you're looking at it are the ones labeled power LED, and then the power switch is on the top right, or I'm sorry, the bottom right as you're looking at it. And the oh shoot, I forgot what the last one was, but that one is right here. This is the bottom of the case. I'm filming it upside down. It's laid down on the table. See, bottom. So if you're looking at it from the other way, it's going to be reversed. I found it easier to work on it this way because I could come at it with the fan or with the PSU shroud on this way. It was just easier to get in than coming at it from the other angle. Your mileage may vary. Do what works for you. Okay, we're going to switch here. Okay, so everything is on the motherboard. Well, not everything, but for the front panel. Are you filming? Okay. So now what we have left is okay. This is our where we need to hook SATA power up to control the fan unit. And I think I'm actually going to just use one of these back ones. Because that way this can just fold up and it can get tucked underneath. The 24 pin, I'm going to run that through this grommet up here. Oh, I just punched the daggone grommet out though. That's not cool. Go back there. Man, this thing is really flimsy, so like trying to get it back into place is... Okay. We're going to try this again, but I'm going to be smart this time. And I'm going to, with 2 fingers on the inside of the case, I'm going to hold that grommet in place so that it doesn't pop out when I do this time. Oh, that was so much better. Okay. And oh, CPU power. Okay, so the CPU, I'm going to run under these guys. I'm going to snake it up the back here. Okay, that connector is on this side over here. Do you got that hole? We're going to go through this last hole over here. And then, so remember for the 1660 Super, we only need 1 of these PCIe connections. So I'm at this time, I'm only going to run 1 through, and I'm just going to tuck this underneath in the PSU shroud to hide it until a later date when we need it. So this one, let me flip this around. You're going to want to see this one. So I think I'm going to run this one up through this hole here. So I'm just going through the back side underneath everything. And I'm going to do this blind. Okay, and we're through. Okay, so I'm going to flip this back around. What was that? The what? Oh, where did that? Oh, the front panel. Why did that wing off of there? Anywho, that was fun. Remember I told you I'm bad at cable management? I'm just going to shove this stuff in here. By all means, do something better. I just don't have it in me. I'm going to pull some of this extra wire through here. That's coming from that USB 3.2. Just trying to bring some of the extra cable through so it's not all out visible on the other side. Same thing with these other wires. We're just going to bring it all through. It's actually bothering me too. I'm going to try and figure out a better way to do this. I want to leave that free-ish because I know I'm going to need it sooner than later. It's these other... Okay. All right. So 24 pin. Why is it? Huh. I'm gonna get that in there until it kind of snugs into place. You'll feel it and hear it snap. That's got a big kind of bend on it coming through like that. And I thought I lost my CPU connector. This is gonna go with the clip oriented up. I actually think this is going to work better going through the other hole now that I'm in here doing it, because I need room to be able to rotate it. Yeah, that works a lot better. This is my second least favorite part because getting my big hands in here to do this is... There we go. Okay, so CPU power is hooked up. 24 pins hooked up. We're going to leave this dangling in the breeze until we get the GPU in here. Yeah, we're just about there. Just about there. I am going to leave the back panel off until we get this thing to post. So we're going to leave that off. I guess we are... I think we're to the GPU.
All right, so let's unpack the GPU real quick again. So this is going to end up going in this orientation here. And that's going to be 2. Okay, that's too thick. So what we got to do here is snap free these guys up here. Be careful not to ding your motherboard up. That just wiggles out and breaks out like that we've got to do 2 of those. All right. Oh, that's what those screws are. All right, so the board is going to go into here, into the top PCIe slot. Make sure that your latch is open. And this guy on the end here, I loosened up and slid open as well. Now there's only one way to put this in here. You can see the slot here, and there's a slot in the PCIe lane. They're going to line up while you're simultaneously kind of guiding it through the back of the case. And you're just going to push it straight back until it locks into place like it did. Now with this particular case, this guy is going to sandwich it here. And your screws are going to go in there. And that, I just put all of these screws away. So we had to take a little break here because that's how it goes. So I just didn't figure this out. So you got to screw the graphics card into here first. But in order to do that, at least me, I had to pull out this screw because this guy was right in the way of where I was trying to go. So if you've got a better technique than me, you might not have to do this, but I just took this little panel right out. If I'm honest, I'm not. At first, I thought it was kind of a neat little thing, but I don't really get the point currently. I don't really know why it's like that. Other cases, I don't know. They didn't need something like that, but whatever. Okay. So now that's screwed in there. Now you just have, it's going to be like that. There's our power hooked up. Gosh, that's ugly with this extra thing here. There's nowhere good that I can even put it. Corsair, please fix this for me. I don't like this. And I can kind of tuck some of it in there, but the other thing we need to mention is whenever you're using these modular power supplies, only, and I mean only, use the cables that came with the power supply. You cannot mix and match. You cannot. The pinouts are different from manufacturer to manufacturer, and even sometimes within manufacturers. So like if you have 2 Corsair power supplies, you cannot switch the cables back and forth between them. You will burn something up. All right, so there she is. I'm going to get a monitor over here and get the power hooked up, get some peripherals hooked up, and we'll be back in a second and see if she posts.
Okay, now is the moment of truth. Flip the power switch on the PSU. power switch on the PC. Well, we've got RGB on the fan, so that's something. Yay! That is a great, great feeling right there. Woo! Oh my gosh, it worked. I felt like for sure there was going to be some kind of issue, you know, because I'm making a video, right?
Okay, so we got it to post. I was slightly worried that the BIOS wasn't going to take because of the issues that I had with that, but it looks like we worked out. Can you see the screen now? Mm-hmm. You can see on the information panel up here, it's a B660M. We're on BIOS F20, 13th gen Intel, i3 13100F, 16 gigabytes of RAM. You can see that right there, team group, 8 gigabytes, 24 mega transfers per second. Because XMP is disabled, we're going to go ahead and enable XMP. We don't have Windows on the drive yet. I'm going to do that offline here in a moment. So right now we don't have an operating system. I just want to make sure this was going to post, and then we'll get the operating system on and try this again. So there's no boot sequence because there's nothing to boot to. But we can go in here and click XMP profile 1, and so now you see that we turned on the 3200 mega transfers per second, CL16, 18, 1838, etc., etc. So we are all set. I'm going to save and exit, F10. Yes. And really the only thing that we changed is that we enabled XMP, and it tells you right there. It's going to boot back into the BIOS, and then when it does that, I'm just going to shut it down, and then I'm going to work on installing Windows. All right, so we got Windows installed. No apps or anything yet. We're going to start working on that. But everything is running smooth as can be so far. And I thought that at least some of y'all out there might appreciate this. It's the only peel I got on this thing. That was a pretty good one. This thing's pretty.